I'm now going to talk about circle geometry. And the standard equation of a circle. So this is it. This is x minus a all squared plus y minus b all squared is equal to r squared. So in this case, r is the radius and a, b is the coordinates of the center of the circle. So, for example, if we had an equation of a circle which was x minus 2 all squared plus y minus 3 all squared equals 36, then what that would mean would be that it was centered, or our value of a here is 2, so it's centered on 2, and our value of b is 3, so it's centered on 2, 3, and the radius is the square root of 36, so the radius is equal to root 36, which is 6. So I'm going to look at these two questions. So we've got to find the radius and center of the following circles. So all we need to do is relate them to this equation at the top. So we need to work out what's the value of a. So we can see the value of a here is 3, and the value of b is 4. So what that means is then the coordinates of the center of this circle are 3, 4, and the radius is going to be the root of the 25 there, so it's going to equal root 25, which is 5. And in the second example, got a is going to be equal to, that's the sign is the opposite to whatever the sign is here. So if it's plus 4, actually a is going to be minus 4, and b here is going to be 7. So b is a positive number, b 7. And what that gives us is that the center of this circle has the coordinates minus 4, 7. And it's got a radius, again, square rooting that number. So square rooting 49 in this case. So radius, square root of 49, which is 7. Often what will happen is we'll get an equation which won't be written in this form, and we'll have to be completing the square method in order to get it into this form and then be able to work out what the center of the circle is and the radius is. So we can see this example here. This is a circle, but it's not obvious what the values of a and b are, or the value of r is, in order to give us the radius. So what we need to do is put it into that format. So the first thing that I'm going to do is collect up the x terms and the y terms. So I'm just going to rewrite it, but just in a slightly different order. I'm going to say x squared minus 6x, and then plus y squared plus 4y minus 23 equals 0. So I'm going to try and complete the square for the x squared minus 6x and the y squared plus 4y. Do those separately so that we can get it into this format. So if you remember the formula for putting something into completing the square is if we've got an equation, or if we've got an expression like this, x squared plus bx plus c, then what we can do, we can write it as x plus the coefficient of the x part in the here over 2. So it's b over 2, and that's all squared. But then what we have to do is take away the b over 2 squared and then add c on. So in our case, I'm going to do this over here separately. So in our case, we've got x squared minus 6x. There is no c to this bit, so c is 0 effectively. So what we would get is we'd get x and then because our b is -6, if we divide that by 2, we get -3. That's all squared. Now we've got to take away whatever b over 2 is squared. What I'll do, I'll just write that out a bit more fully so we can see where it comes from. So -6 over 2, that's all squared. And then our c is actually 0 in this case. So what we'll get is x minus 3 all squared. And then -6 over 2 is -3. If I square that, I'll get 9, but then we're taking that away, so it's going to be -9. So that's what I could write for the x squared minus 6. I can write in brackets x minus 3 all squared -9. And then if I do a similar process for the y one, so we've got y squared plus 4y. And we're just going to treat the y as though it's an x in this case. So we can see our coefficient, or our value of b, is 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to say we've got y plus half of the coefficient of the y, and that's 2 in a bracket all squared. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take away the 4 over 2 all squared and add on the c, which in this case again is 0. So what that will give me is y plus 2 all squared, and then 4 over 2 is 2, square it, gives us 4, which we're taking away, so it's -4. So that's what we can write for the y squared plus 4y. So that's going to be plus y plus 2 all squared, and then minus the 4 there. And then we've also got the -23 that we had previously. That's all equal to 0. So the next thing to do is tidy this up by taking the number part of it, the bit that's not in the brackets. So we're just going to have x minus 3 all squared plus y plus 2 all squared. And then if we add all these bits together, what we get is -34. And that's equals 0. I'm now going to just, it's almost in the form, standard form here of the equation of the circle. I'm just going to take the number part of -34 over the other side. So we're going to get x minus 3 all squared plus y plus 2 squared equals 34. So we can see then this is a circle with center, and the a value is 3, so center 3, and b is actually -2 because we just changed the sign to the opposite sign in here. So that's going to be 3, -2, and the radius is actually the square root of 34. So we could keep that either as 34, root 34, or we could work that out as a decimal. So I'm just going to leave it in exact form, which is keeping the square root symbol on there. Here we've got another equation of a circle, but again, it's not in our standard format. So we need to try and do that. We need to first of all get it in the form x minus a all squared plus y minus b all squared equals r squared. So we need to rearrange it for that. So first of all, I'm going to get everything over on the left-hand side, make it equal to 0. So we've got x squared plus y squared minus 8y equals 0. And we can see the x is just as it is going to stay as it is. They've not got another part of, we've not got anything that's multiplying an x in here, just got the x squared. So we're going to try and use the completing square method on y squared minus 8. So if we take this over here, so what we're going to do is we're going to form a bracket, and it's going to be y minus half coefficient of y on the line above. So that's going to be y minus 4 all squared. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take away half of the coefficient squared, and I don't have a value for c, so we could say plus 0 if we like, just for completeness. So that's going to be y minus 4 squared, and then what we've got is if we half the minus 8, we get minus 4, square it, we get 16, but we're still taking it away, so it's minus 16. And we've got nothing to add there. So I'm now going to replace the y squared minus 8y with what we worked out here. Got x squared plus y minus 4 all squared minus 16 equals 0. And I want to get it in the form where the number on its own is over the other side of the equals, so that's the r part of it. So I've got x squared plus y minus 4 all squared equals 16. And now we can see that because we're not adding any, we can find the value of the center of the circle, and we can find the radius. So we can see that because the x isn't inside a bracket, so not adding anything onto the x, in fact the value of a is 0 here. The value of b we can see is 4, and the value of r squared is 16, so r is going to be equal to root 16, which means we've got a radius of 4. So the coordinates of our circle, center of our circle, are 0, 4, and the radius is equal to 4. So finally, we're asked to sketch the circle. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to quickly draw a set of axes down here. I'm just going to label the y-axis here, going up in steps of 2. And I'll do the same for the x-axis. So we can see the center of the circle is 0, 4, so it's just there. And it's got a radius of 4. So actually, it's going to be a circle which is just going to touch the horizontal axis like this. Just one more thing I should say is if we had a very basic equation, which was like this, x squared plus y squared, and we'll say is equal to, we'll say 4. Then we can see we might be confused because where's the brackets gone? But in this case, if there aren't brackets around the x or the y, then this would have a center 0, 0. So when it's not in the form x minus a in a bracket and y minus b in a bracket, it just means it's centered on the origin. So it's just centered at 0, 0. And the radius here would still be the square root of 4. So it will be root 4, which is 2.